Welcome again, one and all, to another scintillating slugfest on Grudge Match, where we take two combatants from comics, pluck them out of their homeworlds, and pluck them down in neutral territory to have them battle for our personal amusement. Today's match pits the two top reptilian rabble-rousers against one another. From Marvel, the scaly scientist psychopath, the Lizard, and from DC, the genetic throwback of Gotham City, Killer Croc. Now, even though these two characters look very similar and seem to have a lot in common, both being reptilian-based human-animal hybrids, once upon a time, there wouldn't really have been much of a comparison between them, as at their starting levels, they were very different in terms of power. But over the years, as the mutations have caused different fluctuations in their power sets, some powers going up, others going down, they've recently become very, very close in terms of strength, powers, and abilities. So they are very comparable characters nowadays. Starting off with the Lizard and taking a look at him first, Dr. Curt Connors was created in 1963 and has long been a Spider-Man villain, recently even in the last couple years making his way into the movie world and being the primary standout villain of the Amazing Spider-Man movie. Now, he created a serum to try to regrow a lost limb. He lost his arm as a young man, and he's always been searching for a way to regrow it and regain it, and he figured he could combine his DNA with that of a lizard, lizards being able to regrow limbs, and that would allow him to regenerate his arm. Well, it worked, and it worked all too well, turning him into a half-lizard, half-human creature. In his lizard form, which he can turn back and forth from human to lizard either at will or when under stress, sort of like the Incredible Hulk, in his lizard form, he has superhuman strength on about a 12 to 15 ton level. He can move faster than a human, run up to 45 miles per hour, and has enhanced agility, durability, and dexterity. He has a bulletproof scaly hide, so he has a high degree of imperviousness to injury. And of course, when he does get injured, he has very high degree of regeneration, being able to almost instantly regenerate lost limbs and tissue. He also has the aspects of a lizard, including fangs, claws, and even a very powerful tail that he uses as a bludgeon weapon when in combat. While in his lizard form, he retains his full intellect and his genius-level intellect that he has as a geneticist and scientist, and he also has recently come into a psionic ability to control lizard life forms in areas around himself. So, using these abilities, he's been a thorn in Spider-Man's side for many years, especially because in his human form, Dr. Curt Connors and Spider-Man Peter Parker were actually close friends. So he's always conflicted when fighting the Lizard about whether or not he should put him down permanently, because even though the Lizard is a very big threat, Curt Connors, the man trapped inside, is still Peter Parker's lifelong friend. DC's Killer Croc, also known as Waylon Jones, was first created in 1983. Now, his powers come by way of a metagene. He was sort of born with his powers, and they give him what is known as regressive atavism, and that is making him a genetic throwback to a previous stage of human evolution, back when humans were more reptilian than they are now. Now, this gives him a comparable set of superhuman abilities to the Lizard. In fact, in terms of his physical capabilities, they're all pretty well on par with the Lizard's. His strength and speed and agility all right about at the same level that the Lizard's capable of. About 12 tons worth of superhuman strength, 45 miles per hour running, and enhanced agility, and enhanced durability as well. A bulletproof scaly hide, and regeneration as well. Once upon a time, he didn't have quite so good regeneration, but his mutation has increased over the years, and he can actually regenerate lost tissue and lost limbs himself. He also has fangs and claws that would be associated with reptilian creatures, so very comparable to the Lizard in most respects. He's learned fairly decent fighting techniques over the years, but that's mostly restricted to wrestling moves, and he's never learned a lot of martial arts type skills, but when fighting Batman, he tends to have a decent degree of success in fighting him because he falls back on his superhuman abilities, his strength, agility, and invulnerability to match Batman in combat. So two very physically comparable characters in terms of what they can both bring to the fight, so making it very, very difficult to choose who would win between them. But a winner must be crowned, and now having looked at the skills, powers, and abilities of these two characters, it's time to determine a winner. That winner's going to be the Lizard. The reason that Curt Connors takes home the win of this grudge match is really threefold. While their strengths and durabilities and movement speed and everything tend to be very equal, both having claws and fangs to use in combat as well and regeneration to recover from any injuries, Lizard has a few things that Killer Croc just doesn't. First is the tail that he often uses as a bludgeon weapon, is something Croc doesn't have, just really gives Lizard another limb to be fighting with. So it gives him something that is powerful enough to smash down cinder blocks and concrete walls, and so that's something he could bring into the fight and hit Croc with. But even beyond that, he also has a genius level intellect. He's going to be a much smarter fighter than Croc happens to be. One of the reasons Batman is always able to take Killer Croc down is because even though Croc is more powerful than him, Batman is much, much smarter. By the same token, Lizard is much, much smarter, and also a physical match for him as well. So that's going to give him even a greater chance of defeating Croc in combat. But the one wild card thing that Lizard really has in his corner that puts him head and shoulders above Croc is his psionic control of all lizard life forms. This has not been restricted down to purely lower level lizards like geckos and crocodiles or anything like that. He's actually been able to use this psionic control to activate the quote-unquote lizard part of the human brain, and has been able to exert a degree of control over normal humans. Now take Killer Croc. The lizard part of Croc's brain is much more active than in that of a normal person, so if the lizard is able to exert some control over normal people, he would probably definitely be able to exert some control over Croc himself. Maybe not to the point of being able to completely dominate him and make Croc his slave, but at least to the point where he'd be able to influence his actions, giving him an even greater upper hand in the fight between them. So based on those considerations, the genius level intellect, the psionic control of lizards, and being a physical match for Croc and superior mental match for him, that's going to give the Lizard and Marvel Comics the win of this grudge match. Message me down below, let me know what you think of the outcome of this fight, and as always, any suggestions for future matches. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Grudge Match.